So what you're saying is I can't call it Z7.
Chris, Nikon has insisted that this model is called the Z worldwide.
But what about Canadians? What about the British?
Chris, Z. Say it. Z.
I'm still gonna say Z.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. Chris Nichols here from DPReview, and today we're actually coming from DPReview. It's awesome. We're actually here in Seattle at the offices, and that's because we have a very exciting sneak peek. This is the brand new Nikon Mirrorless Z7. Now, of course, you gotta remember, this is very early sneak peek, so this is a pre-production camera. This is not a review, but it does give us an opportunity to look at things like ergonomics, handling, menu systems, and where this camera is gonna go when it hits final launch. The other cool thing is we're gonna incorporate a lot of the DPReview staff, because as you can see there, they're grabbing their sandwiches while being on the phone. Very productive members of society. And what we're gonna do is do some tests with them. We're gonna see how they do the product shots, see how they do a lot of their testing, see how we do a lot of the hands-on kind of applications. We're even gonna get in the field with this camera. It's gonna be very exciting. Stay tuned. Okay, so Dan, while we're shooting these photos, we've just seen the camera the first time. What's your sort of impression of the looks of the camera, the aesthetics?
I'm really impressed, and just having held it for a little bit of time, it feels like a Nikon. It's got that really good grip. A lot of the controls are placed where I would expect them to be for a Nikon again.
But it really does look like a mini SLR in the aesthetics. I mean, do you think that's a positive move? Do you think they should have gone to like a more radical new mirrorless design or a retro design?
Sure. I think it hits it just perfectly. It's not too foreign to DSLR shooters that they're going to be shying away from it. You know, it's still a working tool. It's supposed to be for photographers to use and not just lust over. I'm really excited to get out there and shoot with it. And unfortunately, just shooting product shots is the first step before you get to have
That's all you get to do.
And Dan, this is typically how you do this?
This is a pretty normal, typical product shot.
This is the method?
The skateboard's pretty integral.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
There we go.
We got a great location to test this camera out in May, and let's talk about the viewfinder, because I think somebody coming from an SLR, that's such an important part of the interface, right? How do we give it that optical viewfinder to go to an electric viewfinder? So you've been shooting with it a while, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, I'm surprised. It's actually really easy. It's almost seamless. The precision in there, the clarity of the image that I'm seeing on the viewfinder is phenomenal.
Do you think that's going to be something that people will find then very easy to transition from themselves?
Yeah, I don't think they're even going to notice, actually. If you shoot from a DSLR, if you pick this up, it'll feel the same.
So maybe people might be wondering why we're hiding the camera and having it up here and showing people. It's because we're in public, we're not supposed to let people see it, right? We're trying to be as inconvenient as possible. But having great EVF is great, but the touchscreen also seems to be well implemented. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You can pretty much get anything you want from the touchscreen. You can access all the menu items that you'd normally be accessing while you're shooting.
I mean, this is nothing new. Like, other companies have done this well, but it's nice to see Nikon's not leaving any of that on the table, which is good.
And it's an interface people are used to. You know, if they're coming from their cell phones, if they're coming from other cameras that have a touch interface.
My only complaint again, and I guess I keep harping on this with Nikon, the 5500, the 5600, you could bring the camera to your eye and you could use your thumb on the screen to change autofocus. Here we can't do that.
Right.
We do have the joystick selector on the back, but I think that would speed things up and make it a bit more intuitive, eh?
Especially because if you go between shooting using the screen and then bringing it up to use the EVF, you want to just keep choosing your focal points in the same way, and it's just natural to just keep using the screen to find it. And so to have to move to one of the more traditional ways of finding your focus, it's a little clunky.
Yeah?
Oh, it's 8 pounds. Yeah, like it's just over 600 grams with a battery in it. quite light, you know, like 30% lighter than a D50, 40% lighter. So on the grip, the positives, I think you get a really solid purchase even with heavier lenses, but one negative, for the life of me, I cannot touch the function 1 and function 2 buttons right next to the lens mount unless I let the grip go and jam the fingers in. It's honestly not very comfortable, and I know I don't have the longest fingers. I think anybody else might be okay, but yeah, if you've got smaller hands, that's a little tricky to use. So Richard, can you explain to us what you're actually doing here?
Yeah, basically what I'm doing is scrolling through the menus, trying to look for any of the customization options, and make sure that I've recorded them, so we can compare them to the options in the D850, so we can get an impression of what the customization options are going to be, even after the camera's gone back to Nikon. Right.
And as you're going through, I know you're still sort of midway, but any impressions on the menu system? Very familiar to a classic Nikon?
It will be absolutely familiar to an existing user. The options are pretty much the same and arranged in the same order. The logic and occasionally lack of it is entirely consistent.
Really, Chris, you're really gonna make me wear the lab coat?
Yeah, Rishi, I mean, when you're in the lab, you wear the lab coat. That's how it works.
All right, man, just for you.
I appreciate it.
But like, how come Dan's not wearing a lab coat? So the Nikon Z7 is compatible with all of Nikon's flashes and accessories. So we tried it out with the SB910. One thing we did find was that although the SB910 mounted on traditional Nikon DSLRs will project a red grid on your subject as the light levels drop to make focus just lock on really quickly, it doesn't seem to work with this camera. It's not firing the AF grid. Instead, what we're getting is this green light, this green LED illuminating the subject, and it's not quite as effective as a grid for a focus system, and it also can be a little jarring to your subject.
It's distracting.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about one thing, and that's stop-down focusing. Some mirrorless cameras will focus at the aperture that you're shooting. Other mirrorless cameras and DSLRs always focus wide open. This does something somewhat in between. You can see this f1.8 lens, as I'm stopping it down to 2.8, 4, you see the iris closing down, and now I'm at 5.6. But after 5.6, the camera no longer keeps stopping down. It just stays at 5.6. The benefit of wide open focusing is that you give the AF system as much light as you can, which helps it acquire focus very fast. Now the benefit of stop-down focusing is focus tends to be more accurate. However, as light levels drop, focusing stop-down can actually hurt the AF system because it's not getting much light, and that can actually lead to misfocus, inaccurate focus, or just hunting. This camera is a sort of compromise, but at least it doesn't stop down past f5.6, which would really hurt the AF system, especially in low light. This is the new 24-70 f4. There's spherical elements in here, and that's causing some really interesting patterns. Okay, Chris, I kind of really want to shoot with this camera. Can I take this off?
So this one actually boots up pretty quick and fires off the shot pretty quick. So it kind of adds to kind of a feeling of immediacy.
All right, so that's the end of day one. We got to enjoy a little bit of Seattle nightlife, but it's time to go to bed, wake up early tomorrow, and play some more with the Z7. So Barney, what I want to talk about is the lens mount, this new Z mount. It seems like a very simple thing, but it actually has the potential to be one of the most exciting developments on this new camera, right?
Yeah, it's a very big deal. The Nikon F, this is the original Nikon F from 1959, introduced the F mount, which has been basically unchanged since then.
Right.
And this has a mount diameter of 44 millimeters. And you compare that to 55 millimeters in the Z mount, straight away, it's a much, much, much bigger mount.
Absolutely.
So Nikon got a lot right with this in the late 50s, early 60s, but they also put themselves in a bit of a mechanical corner.
I've got to remember, I mean, companies like Canon, when they switched over to the EF mount, they went way larger. I know it ostracized a lot of the older users of the old mount, the bayonet mount, but it did give them potential to make new optical formulas.
It did, and especially brighter lenses as well. The Z mount, much, much more future-proof. and also allows for very, very fast lenses. We know there's a 58mm f/0.95 nocked on the way.
Now with that wide mount and the fact that we've got that 16mm flange distance, it also opens up a lot of potential for adapting other lenses.
It does.
Right?
This is probably looking like the most adaptable mount of any at this point. There's nothing that you can't adapt, assuming the availability of adapters, onto the Nikon Z system. This is how it looks, because it's so wide and so short.
Very cool. So on the Z7, I think one of the nicest things we've seen now, it is confirmed inbuilt in-body stabilization.
Yeah, and that's something we really saw that readers wanted. We ran a poll when Nikon started teasing the whole campaign, and one of the top 5 answers was in-body stabilization, so people will be really happy to see that.
Fantastic to see it.
So it sounds like a really powerful system. You'll get 5 stops and 5-axis stabilization with a native Z-mount lens. And you'll still get 3-axis with the adapted lenses.
I think the other cool thing that's really interesting, especially from a user's experience standpoint, it's locking the sensor up too if you want to do things like clean it or transport it, things like that.
Yeah, put it on a gimbal.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so it sounds like a very well thought out system. I'm excited to try it when we get full production.
Yeah, we are too.
Ultimate torture test for autofocus. Toddlers.
The worst case scenario, we can put the bow on Chris and have him run around.
One thing I'm finding as I'm doing the AF tests with our toddler is that one of our favorite things about Nikon DSLRs, which is 3D tracking, is kind of just missing from this camera. With 3D tracking, you can easily just initiate focus on whatever subject you want by placing your AF point on it and then just half pressing the shutter button, and the camera will do the rest of the work for you. So you can be free to compose, or your subject can move around. However, to do that on the Z7, you have to engage its subject tracking mode by pressing OK, then placing the center point over your subject, and then initiating AF. It's just not going to be as fast on this camera to switch between subjects, and that can affect real-world, fast-paced shooting. However, the good thing is that if you're shooting using just the LCD, then you don't have to always hit OK to engage subject tracking. If you're in the auto area mode, you can just engage touch AF, and at that point you can just tap on your subject and the camera will track it from that point on. And you can just re-tap on another subject and it'll track that subject, both in stills and in video.
Okay, Jordan, so we finally get to sit down together, do a little bit of talk on video, which is actually one of the more exciting features on this camera.
And that's one of the big reasons people push for mirrorless. You can shoot great stills, and it's kind of an optimized format for video, much more than a DSLR.
Sure, but and the D850 made big advances.
In terms of image quality, and we could really see which way things were going. There were a lot more video-centric features in them, but it was tough to use a lot of them with that DSLR form factor. Now, the big benefit of mirrorless is we get the electronic viewfinder on
and it's very high quality.
It's very sharp, even when you're shooting 4K video with this guy. Now, there is one limitation to that. The punch-in focus is very sharp, but it's extremely choppy once you jump in, and you can't use it while you're rolling. So that's why I was really happy to see that we've got the peaking added to it. And in the D850, that only worked in 1080 recording. Now we've got it in 4K, and it's a really nice system.
Now, another big push for Nikon here, showing that video is something taken seriously. We now have 10-bit output, 4K, 422. Has to go to external recorder, but I mean, Sony doesn't do that yet.
You'll need something like this, or there's an Atomos Ninja 5 that'll be a much better pair with a camera that size. But the big thing too is you've got to hook into something like this if you want to get the new N-Log. So this is their super flat profile. Now fortunately we had the Blackmagic design one here, so we were able to take a look at it. It is very flat. It's a more traditional log profile than Nikon's flat profile, which was nice to color grade, but really not a true log profile.
This is a good step in a professional direction. And you know, lookup tables, of course, this is super early, but we're probably going to see a lot of that come out. The other thing too, with the 10-bit color space, you were even saying with the footage you played with yours early, pre-production stuff, you were actually quite pleased with the color and the ability to push it a little bit.
Yeah, I had 2 very different lighting setups. You were lit tungsten in this, outside is very blue light, and I was able to get them where they need to be, and that's the big advantage of 10-bit color for me.
When it comes to autofocus during video?
Yeah, it actually does a really solid job, and compared to the Sonys, I find it indicates where you're focusing quite a bit better. The stabilizer as well, because we've got such a big lens mount on this, it actually has some room to move. Here, I did find it's more comparable to what we saw with like the Fuji X-H1, just a little more room to move around in that sensor. Did a great job when we were walking. Still not quite what we were seeing on Micro Four Thirds, but again, this is early.
Now when it comes to the lenses though, then we've got some issues here from a video standpoint. So first off, it is a focus-by-wire system.
Yes.
And it's not a linear system, no. So you know, it's going to be totally up to how fast you turn that ring, how far it changes.
It's not repeatable, which is really difficult for video work.
And of course, I don't mind it because I'm a long-time Nikon user, but you're going to dislike the direction that the Nikon travels, and so far it seems to be fixed in the rotation, opposite from what a lot of videographers use.
It depends on what your background is. If you're a videographer, it focuses backwards. All video lenses focus the Canon direction, but if you're a Nikon user moving into video, then it's not going to bother you. But let's remember, it's electronic. Why not just give me the option to flip the direction in the menu like Olympus
Hopefully
does?
We'll see that in the future. Now from a handling standpoint, you've got some nice features. Of course, headphone jack, mic jack, that has to be
necessary.
Given. Yeah, and the screen actually in the back is really nice. Touchscreen interface is quiet and it's very usable. Yeah. The screen is high res, but unfortunately we still just have that vertical articulation.
Exactly. So yeah, this is not going to be the vlog camera of choice. It's tough for, you know, us talking to camera. Something like that would be a little more difficult. I do find with the GH5, I'm always going to the EVF to confirm focus. It's great to know you can check your focus whether on the LCD or the EVF with this camera.
Right, because the Z7 has such a high res screen on the back.
Exactly.
Yeah, all in all, very nice, thoughtful video features. It's definitely a good push in the right direction.
Between this and the D850, we can see Nikon starting to take video more seriously.
All right, Kerry, well, I think it's conclusion time. But before we get to that, I just want to say, Jordan and I had a really great time out here. It was fantastic to finally get out here, see the whole team, and have this like early sneak peek at this brand new exciting camera.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, one of the things that Nikon is looking to be a differentiator with is how the camera really feels in your hand, right? I mean, what did you think about that?
Great grip, interesting features. I think overall we can all agree the interface for the most part is really well done. You know, I mean, some of the function buttons were hard for me to press, but Viewfinder's excellent. Yeah, you know, LCDs are excellent.
The touchscreen interface is super polished, super responsive.
Absolutely. But you have to rely on it.
You do a little bit more so than if you're coming from a D850 to this. There's going to be a little bit more reliance on the touchscreen with the customizable menu, which is good.
Yes, that's a nice change.
But that's definitely a little bit of an adjustment for existing users.
So I guess the thing is this. I mean, we have to remember this is still pre-production. We're going to do a full review on this camera. This is just a sneak peek and an early look. But some of the takeaways, image quality seems like it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty impressed with the lineup of lenses they've started us with.
It's clear that Nikon is really jumping in with both feet for this system.
Yes, but we've got to address the sort of main issue, which is, okay, this is not an SLR. You got a lot of people coming from SLRs. Is this camera going to be something that is seamless, or is this going to require some adjustment? I mean, what do you think about that?
So I think it's a little bit of a two-way street there. I think that it is going to win people over. I think that in a lot of ways there is some seamlessness with, you know, the grip. The menus are very familiar.
Yes.
And the image quality is up there with the D850 in terms of image quality for this particular model. The autofocus system is a little different, and we can't make any big bold claims about autofocus performance now.
Although we've got Richard just riding around his bike, and we're doing more tests, see how it actually performs.
But one of the things that struck us is the interface for autofocus is much more like it's using a Nikon DSLR in live view sort of a system, as opposed to really kind of trying to adapt the DSLR optical viewfinder system into a mirrorless. So while the system, you know, preliminarily performs very well, the vernacular, the settings are a little bit different, so it's going to be a bit of an adjustment for people coming in.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Had a really good time. Otherwise, again, hopefully you guys enjoyed that sneak peek on the new, I have to say it right, Z7. That's good. I still can't do it. But thank you so much for joining us. Again, remember, leave comments below, check out the Instagram feed, go to DPReview.com because this is a big announcement. There's going to be a lot of information out there. Check the articles out, check the sample galleries out. Tweet to us, Instagram, let us know what you think. Otherwise, we'll see you guys soon. And hopefully with a full review on this brand new camera.